Just a little bit.
Yeah. Well, good morning, everybody. Let's get rid of the got it thing there. Good morning. Thank y'all very much for joining us for another weekly edition of our real estate backstory. We do this every Monday morning. We kind of go over the highs and lows, the comings, the goings, and things that are impacting real estate here in the Atlanta market. So my name's Alan Richardson. I'm the managing broker. It's my lovely bride and partner.
My name is Ming Richardson. I'm the compliance broker for Maximum One Realty and Realtor Partners.
And every week, like I said, we kind of do this. We hope that you join us. We want to start off by talking. I mean, we know that we're in a seller's market, right? And so when you've got a seller's market, there's a lot of things, especially for first-time sellers right now, that are really kind of
they're just looking at and listening to their friends and family, what's buzzing around the around them, and they really do have some misconceptions
and so
about what to expect.
So we kind of broken down some of the things that we really need to focus on, especially the first time sellers, but also really with any sellers right now, because even if you sold a home, the average time in Georgia is about 8 years. If you sold a home 8 years ago, it's vastly different market. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Gosh,
wow.
You can tell we're married, right? Wow, that's freaky. All right, we can finish each other's sentences. So in love. Anyway, getting back to it. So what's our very the probably the biggie that we see is overpricing property.
Yes.
That the fact that folks think, gosh, I can do whatever I want as a seller. And so for us, we see that being just right at or even slightly a tick below market value is really the great strategy to be right now. It's not that we have a shortage of buyers. And so you want to create energy and excitement. And you want the property to come across as your sellers being reasonable with their head screwed on, the whole 9 yards. So
not only that, when you do that, typically you will get over asking price. Not only that, along with an appraisal gap. And sometimes we have, and I was interesting enough talking to an appraiser yesterday, and he actually worked on Sunday. So he and I were talking that apparently there's some new rules with appraisal now to where they can be fined, if not investigated, if any classification that they had done prior to was changed. So this is why appraisers now are having a hard time going back, readjusting the value, because I'm telling you right now, anytime anything of material change, they're automatically flagged for investigation. So I thought that was very interesting.
But the other thing with overpricing property is that you've got 14 days to get a full price offer. Stats show again and again that if you don't have a full price offer within 14 days, you're not getting one. And so you got to kind of come out of the gate being very realistic. So.
And you just got to have a frank conversation with your client. If your client refuses to listen, and then that's fine, you can list it. But after that initial period, make sure you're not doing all this exercise for nothing.
The second one is that we are having a trend of a lot of sellers wanting to really kind of limit access and think that
showing.
And don't get me wrong, we're seeing more homes, more virtual tours, more homes sold online, more things like that. But still, you are really, really hurting your buyer pool when you severely limit a buyer's access to view the property. The very first thing that comes across a buyer's mind is, what's wrong with this property? Why are we trying to control how much time I can see? I just want to be able to see the home, feel the home, know what's going on.
Controlling time, meaning 15 minutes. There's no way you can view a property in 15 minutes. So I would recommend minimum 30, no more than 45 minutes.
The third is that we have a lot of sellers who are like, staging, why stage, right? And look, that's going to hurt your value. The houses that we do that are beautiful and pretty and laid out, and we have a photographer go out and take great pictures and things like that, they get the greatest amount of interest and they have the best prices. So as a listing agent, you're going to sell for faster and more money the better the property is staged and the better your photos look. So that's really, really important. Don't let sellers just kind of go like, so we got underwear on the floor. Well, that's a big deal. Okay. Sometimes our sellers also only see dollar signs, and this one right here can really attest to that, because a lot of times we see those contracts coming over and a seller will see just a high offer price, but then they're asking for this and this and this, and it's muddied up on there.
Not only that, when you look at a contract, you need to look at it as a whole, not just the contract price, but all the other conditions. Appraisal gap is a huge bonus along with option money.
Yeah.
So, depending how the contract is structured, at the end of the day, you get to see what the overall effect to the seller is.
Well, yeah, and a lot of times that those sellers want to pounce on that irresistible offer. This is, oh my goodness, did you see
And
this? And they
cash.
just want to jump on it.
Let me tell you, cash doesn't always win.
And cash isn't king right now because, so many we have so many serious buyers, both FHA, conventional, the whole 9 yards. It's not just cash is king because a lot of the cash are investors. And we're seeing some games being played by the investors.
Not only that, I'm seeing more and more assignment and also investor writing a contract, not on GAR form or E form where the stipulations are very clear and defined. They're using their own form. Y'all beware because
It's really
9 out of
weird,
10,
yeah.
I have one agent have 2 offers, and because the seller was very restrictive on showing because they had special need children, and they're legitimately afraid of COVID. And I get that. So the problem is that they're limiting the showing, and they took the first cash, well, actually took the first 2 cash offer, and both of them fell out. And so now, they actually had a property on the offer on another property. Now either they have to extend that offer by putting more earnest money down, while the other 2 contract cash supposedly fell through. And what happened is that 9 out of 10, these are what we call a signed contract. These investors are trying to sell a property before they have to purchase
They buy it. And you really have to ask yourself, why would somebody not use GAR or RE form?
Yes.
There's a reason why they wouldn't be using those forms. And most of the time it's something, I'm not going to go with nefarious or anything, but definitely a little bit shady, maybe kind of thing.
Well, they're investor. They're trying to be creative.
Next one is that for sale by owners really sounds like a good idea, but we're seeing actually for sale by owners at its lowest point ever for the most part right now. So that's and
Good
it's
job,
way
all
harder.
the realtors out there
exactly.
by providing your services and your worth.
Yeah. And then the last 2 here, one is that selling and buying at the same time is a must. We can make our sellers homeless if we're not real careful here.
Make sure you have that consultation with them because, just like they expect to get the best price, guess what? On the other end, the other buyer's expecting the same thing. So therefore, the other seller's expecting the same thing. So don't expect that you want demanding something and not give up on the other end.
And then probably the last one here is that the seller's market, this insanely hot market, we were up 17% last month, is going to continue.
It's not.
Things are, we're going to go through a lot of different things today, and you'll see that, things are going to be tapering off. So now is a really great time to sell, kind of thing. So for years, there's kind of been this tongue-in-cheek thing, like, what's the older profession, Ming? I mean, it's kind of like, what's the oldest profession? For years has been prostitution, right? And then you're like, why are we talking about prostitution on real estate? Well, for years it was prostitution was the oldest profession. Turns out it isn't. Real estate is the oldest profession. Yep. Over 3,000 years ago, the local real estate market, actually in Peru, was found. They found a cave drawing showing now. Here, I'm going to share this with you, just so you can see. So this is the oldest real estate contract in existence right now. And you might be, okay, it doesn't really look like a contract. Well, actually, it kind of is. So this is the original GAR form. I've got a cave. I'm willing to say
real estate form.
Okay, maybe it wasn't GAR. Okay,
Georgia.
yeah, I'm just saying, but
that's Peruvian.
Okay,
form.
All right. Well, I was just being funny anyway. But I'll sell to you my cave for livestock. And so this is the original GAR. So now when folks are like, "What's the oldest profession?" Real estate, baby. All right. That was fun.
Off track.
Yeah, totally. Walmart is now offering mortgages. How about that? That's now they're only offering it in 3 places, but this is kind of interesting, just from a tongue-in-cheek and kind of talking about kind of point. You can get pretty much anything at Walmart, and now moving forward, you're probably going to be able to get mortgages. And so will that open the door? I don't know how this whole thing's going to go down. They're just doing it as a test. But if you do see Walmart mortgages come across,
don't be surprised.
Yeah, we don't see any contracts yet, that kind of stuff. They just started. They're not in our market, but they are talking about a nationwide rollout. So it's kind of interesting.
That'd be interesting because they gonna learn some of the, I guess, growing pain at some of these existing mortgage company. And hopefully, because they got a bigger name, they can get, I guess, a bigger consulting and how to do things
I don't
right.
know, but we really like local lenders. Local lenders are really important to us. So,
Well, we have
not that I
seen-
don't like USAA or Navy Federal. Those are nice programs, but a lot of times it's hard to deal with the same person twice. And so we have no idea how it's all going to roll out.
Well,
but just
I will tell you, we have seen contracts that has mortgage lender that's based out of California, but is licensed in Georgia. And 9 out of 10, because they don't understand how Georgia works. There's a lot of hiccups.
Potential for issues.
Yes. And it's like us licensed in Georgia, reciprocate to Florida. While we don't live in Florida, we can practice in Florida. Tell me
Maybe not effectively or legal.
Right,
or
but tell me how efficient that might be for your client, unless it's just personal friends.
All right. Mortgage rates, guess what? They dropped big for the last 2 weeks. And then somebody said, oh yeah, there's this war going on and the markets are going crazy and we got this massive inflation. So the 30-year fixed jumped up to 3.85, but that's not what's really happening in the market. And so just to make sure that you're aware kind of thing, you can see that the average fixed, because the lenders are mitigating risk is really what it is. And so even though Freddie Mac shows the industry rate at 3.85, we're not seeing any lenders really doing much in that 3 range. The median right now is at a 4.29, and we're seeing 4.5. We've seen 4.75 this past week. And so interest rates are coming up. Do not get all wound up. I mean, last time interest rates were great, interest rates were 5%. Things in real estate were great. And so 5% is not a deal breaker. Yes, it does cost more.
Still great, y'all. It's when it start going down 6 and 7, that's when it could become a really hardship.
So overall, mortgage applications increased last week from the previous week, but they were down for 7% from the year ago. They are looking at long-term rates continuing to move up this week. I think on Wednesday, the Fed is going to be meeting and no one knows, are they going to be raising the federal funds rate by a quarter, by a half a point, or are they going for the full point? Right now, it's kind of or will they not do anything at all? That's the other thing. No one really knows. The bottom line is that mortgages right now are costing about $200 per month more than they were a year ago on a $400,000 home, and that's just realistic.
That's because the interest rate.
And well, no, actually, it's a combination of two things. It's interest rate plus rising appreciation. Between those two, the average $400,000 home is costing $200 a month more than what it was a year ago. And that
a year ago, that house may be $350.
Yeah, and so it's just realistic. Thank you. That works out good. So now on the other hand, the really good part here is the national delinquency rate is really low. It's even with pre-pandemic levels and near the record low that we set even during the moratoriums. So folks are not letting their houses go. You can see that.
Once again, they still have equity.
And that's the fact. So don't think that there's this REO boom coming out there.
And plus, just so you know, because inventory is so tight, they can't move out and get another place to live.
Yeah.
And so that's the flip side of the equation.
One of the dilemmas that a lot of our buyers have is that they have very high student loan debt. And actually, probably not the good news, Georgia's number 3 in the nation on states with the highest amount of student debt. In Georgia, the average student loan debt is over $40,000, and you can see that we're definitely the top 10 are on that $38,000 to $40,000 range. Now we're not as bad as Washington D.C. And right now about 15% of our population here in Georgia are carrying student debt of some sort. That kind of debt is also kind of leaning into almost half of our millennials. They did a big study on millennials and said that they're scared of debt. A lot of them because they have so much student debt kind of thing. And so they're putting off buying a house. And for us, that's a big concern. And it should be a big concern for you because, what we don't want to do is have an entire generation that comes up and doesn't understand the power of home ownership. And that's a big worry for us. And I hope that you're helping to kind of talk to your millennial clients and that kind of thing, because this is so.
Emotional lender, just so you know, probably about, I want to say about 9 months ago, or maybe a little further back, instead of taking 1% of student loan, the lender's only taking 0.5%.
Yeah.
So as their debt to income ratio. So it has changed. So make sure your client is talking to the lender to see if that they're on the best path when it comes to their student loan. Because sometimes you can consolidate 4 or 5 student loan into one. And once you consolidate it, and plus with a reduced payment, it might make housing affordable.
Well, and it's not necessarily that it's not affordable, it's that they don't want to carry more debt. But here, this slide here, I kind of want to share with you guys because it carries a lot of weight. Now, we've been in a seller's market. How many years have we been in a seller's market now?
Now, since pandemic, right around
Well, it was seller's
2020.
market before pandemic, really.
Well, right before, yes.
And so, but for years now, we've been in a seller's market. And so if you bought a home a year ago, and even a year ago, we were sitting here talking about, is the market going to crash? Should I buy now? Is things looking bad? That kind of stuff. So if you bought a home 12 months ago here in Georgia, your average equity was $55,000 over the last 12 months. And so when you say, gosh, like here in Georgia, if someone had, I don't know, say $40,000 in student loans, like we just talked about, and you just got $55,000 in equity in a year, seems like a pretty smart investment. No matter what, we got to remember that home ownership is the greatest driver of wealth. If you look at what home ownership has done over the last 10 years, so 2010 through 2020, for the average, the median price point folks, they went from having a sales price of $162,000 to $229,000. It was really, really big. And so that group gained over $2.1 trillion in value. Now, the states that had the areas that had the greatest increase in middle income, guess what? Atlanta. So Phoenix, Austin, Nashville, Dallas, Houston, Atlanta, Chicago, Portland. These are great for us because that means that we're help leading that trend. But home ownership drives wealth. It really, really does. So I don't want to see this whole millennial generation kind of grow up thinking, well, we'll just rent, and then they end up losing their shirt long term, because that's where we build wealth here in the U.S. kind of thing. Unemployment numbers came in for February, and one thing that was kind of interesting was jobs jobs for real estate, or as jobs correlate to real estate, is a really important factor for us. One thing is that the jobs rate came up. Also, wages didn't necessarily increase much, wages have been one of those things that's been driving inflation. So hopefully we'll see a little softening of inflation. But the other thing that's going on is so this came from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and you can see that we've got 11.3 million job openings, and we've had less and less people quitting their jobs over the next, and so there is a massive demand for jobs. And when people have jobs, they spend money and they buy things, and a lot of those things that they buy are houses. And so this is one of those things that's really, really good. It's tied not only to residential real estate, but also to commercial real estate. So these are important factors for us. Now, we also know that the biggest driving factor for that is we are in a long-term housing shortage at the moment. If you wanted to see a graph of where our housing levels are, and when people say, is there going to be a crash in housing? Are we crashing in housing? Are things going down? Look at back in 2018, we had over 2 million homes on the market. We're down around 700,000 homes total in the US of properties for sale in the United States. And so when people say, is there going to crash? Is the housing market going to falter? Listen, folks, we got way more demand than we have supply. Even with prices appreciating, even with interest rates going up, we don't have enough houses. I mean, look how long it's taken us to get down to this point, and it's not turning around. Right now, we have 45 million millennials in the buying market at the moment. That's a lot more houses right there and those folks are all in that 26 to 35-year-old range that are drivers of our real estate industry, right, of our market at the moment, kind of thing. Now, on the positive side, FMLS just released their numbers for February, and guess what? New listings were up for like the first time in like forever.
For months.
Yeah, we're really glad to see it. We haven't seen that number in the green, and granted, it's only almost 3%, but still 3% more listings than we have had. I'll take it, baby. I will absolutely take it. Now, we all know what's going on in Russia, and so we've seen where there's all these bans on real estate and oligarchs. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't know what an oligarch was until we started hearing about all this kind of things going on. But the other thing I found very interesting is that there's a lot of Russians that have started liquidating real estate. And so the two biggest markets for real estate for Russian oligarchs and for Russian people, first is New York City, followed by Miami, or vice versa. And Georgia is number 3. Actually, no, I totally lied to you. Number 1 was Florida. Number 2 is Georgia. Number 3 is New York. So more Russians own real estate in Georgia than necessarily in New York. And New York's a huge market for them. So I just found that was kind of interesting. If you happen to know any Russians looking to sell, might be a good time. Speaking of selling, April 10th to April 16th is the best time to list in 2022. All right. And so it is and this is actual scientific data, right? This is not just like, you know what, I think it's a good time to sell. Yeah, I didn't just like throw a dart at the wall at a calendar kind of thing.
This is collected over time, and also the demands and this is stats.
Let's show you. Okay, yeah. So first thing is, when is our best? When are prices the best? April 10th. Well, that works out really good. How about when is the greatest amount of demand? April 10th. Okay. What's the fastest pace we have on the market? April 10th. How about the time when there's the least amount of competition from other sellers?
April 10th.
Y'all feeling the trends here, are you, kind of thing? And then which date has the fewest number of price reductions overall on a median? April 10th. So this is the data for the Atlanta, Sandy Springs, Roswell market kind of thing. Even though it's the Sandy Springs, this is the overall Atlanta market kind of thing. And so you can see that the best date, the best start date to list property of the year is April 10th. Now we are middle of March. And
March
so
14th.
We know
that's
that
less than a month.
So we've got to get together. Well, first of all, we have to have those initial initial consultations with our clients, and we need to schedule photographers, and we need to have some minor repairs done, and we need to have some painting and some touch up, all those things we talked about in the very beginning. So this is not something that you should be waiting to talk to your clients about, I don't know, in April. You need to take this data right now, and you need to be talking to your potential sellers and talk about the benefits of selling April 4th through 10th. It's one of those things where a lot of times we just kind of wait around for our clients, and we don't have a reason to say this is a good time to sell and here's why.
So this is a good conversation starter.
Exactly. Please, I'll be glad to send anybody these slides, that kind of stuff. You can pull it off. All this data actually comes from NAR. And so the whole idea here is that this gives a reason to reach out to clients because we need more listings. And so being able to say, look, this is the best day to sell here in the Atlanta area. Here's why. Boom, 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 boom. If you're thinking about selling, can I help you? Can I come, let me come have a look at your house and tell you what needs to be repaired. Let's go ahead and start planning for this now. Let's go ahead and have those initial consultations now so that you can really hit the market at the sweet spot right there. All right, Congress has passed the spending bill, and not being political about it, it has some things that does affect housing kind of long term, and so it's good for us to look at that. First thing is it has flood insurance. They renewed the flood insurance program kind of thing, which is really important because we have so many folks that are enrolled in that program. They're also expanding broadband. With housing shifting away from urban centers, most all that broadband access is for rural areas kind of thing. Another $85 million towards fair housing, and we know that that's continuing to be a big deal. Violence Against Women Act, that's another one that, obviously I'm very concerned about, kind of thing. And so, HUD was one of the big drivers in pushing for that, as well as money for transportation, because transportation costs help direct and guide housing. So there's a lot of things in there. So again, not that I don't have any particular point other than just to keep you up to date. Oregon was the first state that banned real estate love letters, but the Fed came back and said, not so fast. And so they didn't, and so they have blocked Oregon's love letter ban. And so if you see those kind of things going on, we just kind of want to tell you, or like,
just be careful, because what you write in there, if it's describe the character versus the asset, the house itself, then it can be potentially under fair housing violation. So be careful how the letter's written, and agents, we
have to be looking out for the protected classes here.
Correct.
So if you say, guys, this, like my family loves this home, my kids, any of that kind of stuff, it's really just it's a potential for a fair housing violation. So
especially you have multiple of those and they're similar in kind as far as the language, but you choose one over the other when there was no reason, they can say you chose one because of my background or my whatever it is. They all fair housing issues. So just be very careful.
So, we have seen some that don't violate it, but those are the ones that focus primarily on the house features.
Correct.
And not to do anything with any of the protected classes.
The characters of the potential new owner.
Yep. Also in the on federal news kind of thing, the housing industry wrote a letter to Biden to address the affordability crisis. And this is one of those where it's pretty broad range, like everybody in housing signed off on this letter, from NAR to AARP, the NAACP, National Home Builders Association, the Mortgage Bankers Association, like everybody. And the whole thing is that we know that affordability is one of those big deals that we have going on right now. And so they're asking for a President's Council on Housing Affordability. I don't know where that's going to go yet, but just the fact that we are seeing everybody screaming about affordability, and we all know that that's continuing to be a big deal. Our rental market is also right now facing some of the highest rental costs ever. Okay.
Right.
And they actually polled renters and said, are you expecting a rent increase? And they're like, yeah. We're expecting another 7.1%, but guess what? That's not as high as it's going to go. It's going to go much higher on that, because as property values go, so rental rates go.
Well, if you think about it, the landlord has to pay for the property taxes along with any other tax costs that might be incurred.
And if your property is worth more, you're going to charge more in rent. That's how it goes. So it's not like one of those things where it's like, hey, stick it to the landlord. The landlord's going to turn around and stick it right back to the renter.
Just because the landlord may have purchased a property at a very reasonable price does not mean that savings automatically pass on to the tenant.
Now, if you are having some folks who are looking, we did get, and not that all of our agents have access or are going necessarily to Georgia, but here in Macon, Georgia is listed as the 9th cheapest metro in the United States. And so the median list price in Macon is $174,950.
I've seen it because I got agents out there.
And so if you have those clients who are like, I don't care where I live, I can work remotely, yada yada, things like that. If you have people
working in Locust Grove, Macon's not a bad drive for Locust Grove when you go against the traffic. So that just depends on the individual.
But again, we're just trying to offer, because a lot of times my max is $200,000. Where can I go? And I'm like, that's a tough sell right now. Right. I mean, those homes are going crazy, but when we have an MSA that's not that far away, that falls in at 175, might be a decent place.
Consideration.
Yep. Now, if you're not seeing this, you will. Look at how many new developments right now are going on that are townhomes. Builders and buyers are both favoring townhomes right now.
And that's because of cost.
Well, for two things, actually. One is that this is one of those products they can build quickly, less expensive, faster, but on the buyer side, it matches with a lot of, especially for a lot of our millennial buyers. This is a good deal. They don't want to have the maintenance issues. Most of these townhome communities have a lot of amenities, and they're close to major traffic patterns and things like that. For a lot of us, the average real estate agent's 55 and maybe kind of set in their ways about what is a starter home. And so we need to be prepared for a market shift. Townhomes are more and more, expect to see more and more builders building townhomes here in Henry County. We've got a 200 townhome development being built right now. I got another 151 right down the street from that. It's all through the whole South Side. We're seeing townhome construction starting again and again being proposed. There's still some pushback from municipal governments on it, kind of thing, because I think it's going to be low rent housing. That's not what the builders are building. Okay, and those are not going to be cheaper. I mean, not going to be dirt cheap. They're not building low rent housing. They're
building some with even garages. So it's it's not your traditional townhome as we perceive it.
Yeah. As far as like trends go, when the pandemic first started, we really started seeing multi-generational households really starting to take off, and they were really, really popular. But that's really leveled off, which we kind of found surprising. We kind of expected to see that multi-generational household trend increasing. And here in Georgia, it shot up for a little bit. But now that 5-year change there's only about 4.5%, only about 4.39 a share of multi-generational households here in the state of Georgia.
I think it's all about privacy.
Yeah, I guess. But, we just this is one of those trends that when the pandemic hit, we were like, man, there's a lot of multi-generational households coming on. There's a lot of demand for it, things like that. And as things are going, even with high home prices, the whole 9 yards, they're not proving to be that. I mean, there's still a market for it. Don't get me wrong. I mean, almost 5% of any market's significant, but it's not like this massive shift that we were looking at originally, kind of thing. What are the top 20 cities trending for Gen Z renters? Guess what? We come in the top 20. So we're number 18. And you might be saying, well, gosh, why does that really matter, Alan? I mean, this is, right now about 22% of the renters in Georgia are Gen Z. It's the biggest group jumping into renting. Now, I bring that up largely because guess what's going to happen in another 4 or 5 years?
They're ready to buy.
And so the fact that we're one of the top 20 markets where Gen Z people are renting in the next 4 or 5 years, guess what area they're probably going to be one of the top 20 markets for Gen Z buyers?
Us.
So
Georgia.
That's a really good thing for just like continued prosperity in our area. This is one of those weird real estate things, and we even have a couple of our agents that do Airbnbs and kind of thing. But what we're seeing is that as far as like real estate and what's going on in Ukraine, you can go and you can rent a place in Ukraine that help Ukrainians out. So most of these are Airbnbs in Ukraine that are blown up houses, kind of thing. And you can basically rent the money. Airbnb is waiving any fees or costs, so it all goes kind of them. So if you are looking to kind of help donate, the vast majority of the donations are coming from the US, kind of thing. And so I think it's over 50%, that kind of stuff. So far, there's been 61,000 nights booked on Airbnbs in Ukraine. And so if you're looking to help out, I just thought that was a pretty interesting thing, because a lot of times we're helping out, you help out organizations and things like this. This is the first instance where you can actually go help somebody out like directly.
Airbnb, right?
Yeah, directly. I want to cover OneHome really quickly. So OneHome is this is the newest evolution of the Matrix product through FMLS. And you may see some things starting to go through it. FMLS has added the OneHome, and it's still really, really new, but it has a place where you can basically think of it almost like the collaboration center from Georgia MLS. And so it has a marketplace where you can recommend lenders and attorneys and different things like that. It also helps you share properties much better than we've ever been able to do through FMLS. buyers and can go in and search for properties. They can get better property details, and it's all integrated in a matrix. And so they have a ton of new CE classes coming out for it. So Matrix, working with clients in OneHome, they have a 3-hour CE class. I do encourage you to go out there and jump into this one
Today,
because,
actually, at 1:30.
it's today at 1:30, like Ming said, and they still had like 50, 60 open spots. So if you can jump in there, we are just now getting exposed to it as well. But shout out to Bobby, because he's like, what's this OneHome thing going on? So
Thank you, Bobby.
yeah. On training, we have so much training going on this week that it will make your head spin, kind of thing. So on tomorrow, Tuesday, we have it from 9:30 here in the McDonough office. We have the Art of the Home Inspection. That's going to be live. Also on Tuesday, I'm going to be in Conyers at 10, going over our contract rating 101. And so basically what we're doing is we throw out scenarios, then we do purchase and sale, listing agreement, buyer brokerage agreement, and that's going to be in live in our Conyers office.
And this is to help the agent to better equip themselves in writing contracts.
And we're going to be doing that in all of our offices. Ming and I are kind of bouncing around, rotating around. I've got one coming up in Fayetteville. I got one coming up in Noonan, but we're going to go through and we're going to do both R and RE all the way through there. But just, let's face it, the 3 biggest contracts or 3 most common contracts of purchase and sale, listing agreements, and buyer brokerage. And so we're going to be writing those all together, kind of thing. On Wednesday, I'm going to be over in Noonan teaching the ultimate listing system. Also on Wednesday, we've got a virtual on contracts review, GAR versus RE. And then also later at 1 o'clock, we have this business builders series from Schaefer's and Dean, and they're going to be going over what residential agents need to know about commercial. Thursday, the 17th.
We're KV Core Live.
KV Core is going live. Now we have an 11 o'clock orientation that's going to be in the offices as well as virtual at the same time. And so that's when we're going to be rolling out KV Core. The websites are going to be going live. All the video training starts. Everything kind of kicks off on the 17th. So wear green or pinch yourself, but we are going to be going live on that.
After that.
Yeah. At the same time, we also have the Friday. Game of credit on Thursday. No, we're still on Thursday. Look, this is CE week.
It's rocking. It's
crazy. Yeah. So we have the Game of Credit by Teresa McIntosh, and she's going to be on there on Thursday, and then on Friday, preparing your clients for the home inspection. That will be virtual, so you can grab those CE hours on there. So I hope you guys had a great week. If we can help with anything, or if there's anything that we can be of service, call, text, smoke signals, we kind of answer it all. And so we hope you guys have a great week.
Thank you, and happy Monday.
Bye-bye.